In this video, I'm going to be doing a mechanics review on the BMW 5 Series F10, F11 models. I'm going to be sharing with you the most common problems I've come across in the workshop in this video. I'm going to be going through this list in no particular order. Again, it's off of 5 Series, it's F10, F11 models, and the engines that I'm going to be focusing on in particular on this, that all these parts have come out of pretty much, is a 2-litre diesel. It's the N47, and it's that twin power turbo one. So if you have one of these, this video is going to be very, very useful for you. Some of these failures cross over to a lot of different ranges as well, so there is a lot of commonalities across them, but let's jump into it. Number one, and again, this is no particular order of failure rates, is this flange. It's a coolant flange, sits under the intake manifold and it splits. So a very cheap part, only held in with 3 retaining bolts or screws, but it fails. It's in a high temperature area like a lot of these failures are, and when it does split, it can leave you stuck and can leave you at the side of the road, and it's going to take a bit of time to actually gain access to it. Part availability is quite common. They're on the shelf. I was able to pick this up very, very easily. And if you have any part supplier that deals with European stuff, it'll be very easy to get this as well. But about $50 approximately, or something like that, for these parts. That leads me on to the second job, which is carbon buildup throughout the intake, on the back of the valves, on the intake manifold, and on the runner. So the intake or swirl flaps, intake runner, those get heavily carboned up. Not much you can really do to avoid it. It is going to be a heavy cleaning process. There is a lot of removal and components that need to come out of the way for it. And if you have that coolant flange issue, you're also going to have to take the intake manifold out of the way. I have a video up on my channel already showcasing how you can exactly do that step by step, and also how to remove the carbon. I will link all videos in the description below that are associated with these jobs. Now, if you do have the carbon buildup, which if you go into the higher mileage, you're definitely going to, it's going to be a process of, if you're doing it yourself, it's going to be very cheap. You only need a minimal amount of tools and you can successfully do it. It's just going to be time consuming. But what I will say, if you do decide to do that, take your time. Make sure that you're not going in a second time, that you have cleaned out everything to the best of your ability, and you don't get frustrated with how time consuming it can be. If you have specialist tools, if you have specialist cleaning equipment, it's going to be quicker, but you can do it with pretty basic stuff in a longer format type setting. But again, straightforward enough job, just time consuming. Number 3 is going to be a bit of a package together. It's going to be first talking about these. These are electronic solenoid valves, boost control solenoids. They have various names, but ultimately what they do is they're electronically controlled, and they have these lines, like vacuum lines, running to and from. Both the lines that run from it and the solenoids themselves fail. Again, I have a video up on how to test these. Main reason they fail, from my understanding, is heat. They're in very high temperature areas. They're right across near the turbos, exhaust manifold, up along the top of the head. There's 2 towards the front of the engine, one near the AGR and the other in the upper turbo. They're easily accessible, so very quick and easy to test and remove. There's also ones at the back. Them are very hard to get to. In some cases, they're buried and there's a lot of things in the way. So depending on yours, test it right. Part-wise, they're very cheap. When they do fail, they can throw on drivetrain faults, boost-related faults, turbo-related faults, and you're going to have performance issues. It is a very simple thing to check. It just may take a bit of time to get in there. But again, the parts are available quite easily and they're relatively cheap. Replace the hoses if there's any issues. I've seen those splitting as well. So check the hoses. If you have a smoke machine, do that. You can also remove them, do very close inspection. And if there's any doubt, just replace it. Number 4, I am going to bundle together as well. They can be separate jobs, absolutely, but I'm going to bundle them together so I can kind of share a bit of information on it for you. It's the timing chain first and foremost. Timing chain failure on these, they start to come in around 120,000. plus kilometers, so 120 to 150, you should start to see these come into your workshops if you have a lot of these driving in. 100-ish thousand miles if you're in that side of the world and you're looking at getting this checked. Now, have I seen them go much longer? Absolutely, and I'll speak about that at the end of the video. But if you start to hear noise at the top end, if there's any doubt whatsoever, you got to get it checked. It's a very time-consuming job, it's labor-intensive, and it's also part expensive. So you're going to have time and chain, guides, tensioners, you're going to have oil and filter change, and you have to remove a heavy amount of components to get access to this. You're also going to need a decent amount of equipment to be able to do this job, so it's not the easiest one in the world for you to try and DIY yourself. But time and chain, I'm going to couple that with the rocker cover gasket. So oil leaks on BMWs can be quite frequent. If you have a rocker cover gasket failure in yours, so that valve cover, if there's a leak there, it is a perfect time when you're replacing that gasket to check the chain. You'll never have a better, more accessible time than when you have the cover top taken off to be able to check if there's any slack on that chain. So if you have a mechanic about to do that job, or if you're about to do it yourself, get in there, look at the chain, maybe do a couple of rotations and check the slackness of the chain as it's moving around. If there's no issues, if you don't see any problems, don't worry about it. You can delay it and go to another time. If there's any doubt, I would highly recommend getting in ahead of it and replacing that before it becomes an issue. And last but not least is the turbo. So again, this is a 2-litre diesel N47. It's got a sequential turbo in it, which is, this is the upper one here that I'm showing. So this is a small turbo, and on the lower side, it's got a big turbo. These fail. They fail all over the place. I've seen loads of different reports on them. The actuator, I've seen that fail, but more common is the failure of the turbo itself. The play develops in here, and you can have catastrophic failures too, where they blow apart and bits can get sucked through. Now, what can we do to avoid some of these failures? Now, condition-based servicing is something that manufacturers have come out with quite a while ago. Now, we can have a conversation about why that's a good or a bad thing. In the reality, it's a whole other video, and it's a bad thing. It's not going to be good for your vehicle, and the reason why is by the time you've changed the oil, it's too late. The damage has already started to be done. So with regards to the turbo and the time and chain, can we delay those failures? Time and chain, absolutely. I've seen these vehicles go in excess of 300,000 kilometers. I've seen them go to 250 with absolutely no issues whatsoever in relation to the chain. We had one particular customer that came to us every 10,000 Ks, like clockwork, no issues with the chain. Now, if you have another customer that has stretched intervals on their service history and they have to replace the time and chain at 120 to 160,000 Ks, the common denominator is servicing. The grit and the paste that happens when the oil is breaking down and not being replaced, you have that run on the guides, you have that run on the chain, it's circulating throughout, and that's going to cause excessive wear. The inlet oil port in that turbo, it's small. And if you get grit come through into that area, is it going to be able to lubricate correctly? Absolutely not. So to avoid and to prolong and to help as much as possible, reduce your service intervals to around 10,000 kilometers. That's going to give you the best chance to get these major component failures pushed down the road as long as possible. In some cases, you may never even encounter it while you have the vehicle. Now, to touch on that, there is a couple of other common faults, but they are in the recall section. So if you have a BMW, there's some recalls. You can put in the license plate number. You can ring up your local BMW dealer and you can speak to them and ask them, is my vehicle due for any recalls? The EGR, so exhaust gas recirculation, that's going to be one of the recalls that you would experience on these, and they do it free of charge. The other one is the airbag. So they check to see if yours is one of the airbag. Now the airbags were across a whole host of makes and models, but again, they're in some BMWs of this range. Those two recalls should get done free of charge in any of the dealerships that you have them. If there's any other faults, please note them down in the comment section below. Overall, do I think they're a good vehicle to own? If you're able to repair them and it's got a good service history, absolutely, you can get them at good value and you will be having a very, very good vehicle to drive. If you're someone that doesn't have a budget for repairs, there's definitely better options out there than this. They're not going to be the most practical for you. They are going to have a larger repair bill. There isn't, especially over here, as many workshops that are going to want to repair these vehicles than, let's say, your Toyotas or your Hondas or any of your common makes and models of vehicles that you see, like Hyundais, etc. So if you are looking to purchase one of these, check the service history as much as possible. Try and get a low mileage one if you can, and then start to do your preventative maintenance to try and prolong them as much as possible. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it useful and informative. If you did, please like, share, comment and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.